Imagine a world without death, suffering, or lies. Wouldn't it be wonderful? If you answered yes, allow me to shatter your reality. While on the surface a world like this sounds very idyllic, the truth is that it would suck. The things that make our lives worthwhile are there because our existence isn't just flowers and rainbows. Life is finite, so we strive to make the most of it. Life is cruel, full of suffering, and that's why we can appreciate the moments of happiness, and the truth can be cruel, which is why a white lie can make the difference between life and death. One of the things that we are told early in the story of Amphoreus is the fact that the three Titans of Calamity appeared one day and brought strife, death, and trickery with them, plunging the world into chaos. Before that, people would live eternally, strife would be non-existing, and there were no trolls on the internet. You know what? Maybe I was wrong, maybe life would be better in a world like this. But as we learned during Castorice's story in 3.2, life during that time wasn't really life. It was merely existence. People were devoid of any kind of motivation, and while there were no conflicts or death, people led meaningless lives. Ironic, isn't it? The three Titans of Calamity are always presented to us as being the most dangerous and quote-unquote evil, but in fact they are the true unsung heroes of Amphoreus, who kept the world together and the only reason why the Chrysos Heirs had a chance at fulfilling the prophecy. Welcome! In today's video I am going to explain how a battle-crazed maniac, a depressed girl in a wheelchair, and whatever this thing is are the reason why Amphoreus had a chance at salvation. But before we get to talk about the three Titans of Calamity and their demigods, we need to take a short look at the history of Amphoreus and how the gods appeared into this world. Throughout the history of Amphoreus, you may have noticed that the Titans are grouped in instances of three, each group appearing in different moments of time and being responsible for different aspects of creation. We have Janus, Talenton, and Oronix, who are considered the three Titans of Fate. They are the first Titans to appear during Era Luminosa, and they are responsible for creating time, space, and some more abstract concepts such as laws, cause and effect, and balance. Funnily enough, Janus is said to be the first Titan to be born, and Tribius became the first demigod of this cycle after inheriting Janus's core flame. After a while, a new set of Titans, Georgios, Aquila, and Fogusa, were born. We don't really know how Georgios was born, but we do know that they were the first of the three, since it is said that Aquila and Fogusa spawned from one of Georgios' stone pillars. These three are called the three Titans of Foundation and are responsible for the creation of land, sea, and the sky. The last Titan who was born during this era is Kephale, but he is not considered as one of the three Titans of Foundations. Kephale is also the one who created humans. The creation of humanity also marked the end of Era Luminosa, and Amphoreus transitioned towards Era Creatura. During this time, two more Titans, Xerxes and Nestia, are born, and together with Kephale, they are known as the three Titans of Creation. Xerxes allowed humans to awaken enlightenment and gain knowledge, while Nestia granted the inhabitants of Amphoreus the gift of love and affection. After Era Creatura ended, Era Chrysia followed through. And if you remember the debate between the Chrysos Heirs and the Council of Elders in 3.2, Era Chrysia is said to be the most prosperous era for humanity. An era without death, strife, and trickery. An era where people lived forever and nobody knew suffering or deceit. Era Chrysia ended with the birth of the first Titan of Calamity, Thanatos, who brought an end to the eternal life that the people of Amphoreus were enjoying until then. After the birth of Thanatos, two more calamities followed through, and Zagreus and Nicador were also born, bringing strife and trickery to the world. During this time, humanity started to experience many hardships for the first time. At the same time as the three Titans of Calamity were born, the dark tide also began to descend upon Amphoreus. So you may see why the three Titans of Calamity have such a negative reputation, although they all have people who worship them, like the people of Idonia, Lamia or the Crimnoans. All the other titans are associated with the creation of the world and humanity, while the three Titans of Calamity are responsible for suffering, death, and plunging Amphoreus into chaos. Yet, after playing the story, we learn that these three titans are in fact the unsung heroes of Amphoreus. Why do certain titans appear at certain moments in time? One answer that I saw and that I really liked was that titans are born when they are needed, which makes a lot of sense when you think about the order in which they appeared. First, we have space, time, and the fundamental laws of the world. Then we have the foundation of the world itself, the earth, the ocean, and the sky. Then we move towards the humans and other life forms, and finally we have an end. It's a perfect cycle, but I also think that the reason why the three Titans of Calamity appeared, it's tied to the Black Tide. I don't think it's a coincidence that they all appeared around the same time. They appeared exactly when the world needed them the most. We know that the first titan to make contact with the Black Tide and fight against it was Nikador. Unfortunately, the same Black Tide was also the reason why they went mad and started their rampage against humanity. But even after Nikador got corrupted by the Black Tide, they never ceased to fight against it. The duty of Strife was always to keep the Black Tide at bay, and they were the only titan to rise against it. The Black Tide was a force that even the Titans were afraid of because of the corruption it caused. So yeah, even if Nikador was a mad war machine, it was still the only barrier that stood between the Black Tide and the rest of Amphoreus. Also, let's think for a moment about the very concept of strife. In essence, strife stands for conflict, discord, suffering, war, but it's also something that humanity needed at that time to protect itself. Destruction was at humanity's doorstep, and strife was not only the protector of humanity, but also the main motivator that allowed humans to take up arms and fight for themselves. It's an essential concept for survival. Without it, humans would have perished long ago. This is also why, after we defeat Nikador at the end of 3.0, Aglaya and the rest of the Chrysos Heirs were desperate to find someone who was able to inherit the core flame of strife. Without Nikador keeping the Black Tide at bay, humanity was in even more danger than before, and we see the consequences of Nikador's defeat through the tragedy that happened at the Groove and the first appearance of the Flame River. After Maidi becomes the demigod of strife, the first thing he does is to return to Castrum Kramnos and fight the Black Tide, making sure that the rest of the Chrysos Heirs are able to finish the flame chase journey. What started as a harbinger of war and suffering ended up being the shield that protected Amphoreus from annihilation. That is usually associated with suffering, nothingness, parting, and fear of unknown. So it's only natural for us to resent it. And for a long period of time, this concept was foreign for the people of Amphoreus. Until Thanatos, the titan who never revealed themselves, appeared and brought Amphoreus into a new era. When we first meet Castorice, we learn about her gift of death and about the fact that she wishes to find Thanatos and end the calamity of death. At a first glance, it made sense. I mean, who wouldn't want to get rid of that? Yet, there were people who worshipped that in this world. Why? Was it religious fanatism? Foolishness? No! We learn from Lady Amunet's soul in Styxia that before Thanatos' birth, life for the people of Amphoreus was meaningless. Sure, they knew no death, suffering, pain, but the fact that we will die at some point is what makes our experiences valuable. If life were to be eternal, there would be no joy in the little things we do, the people we met, and the relationships we build. It's because of our limited time that we are able to truly live. So the people who lived before had very empty lives, eternal but unfulfilling. Not to mention that if that wasn't a thing, the torment brought by the Dark Tide would be eternal. People would end up corrupted and suffer for eternity. As cruel as it might sound, that is also a mercy, an end to the suffering of the sick, powerless, and old. So while Castorice sought to eliminate that from the world, she slowly got to realize that this world needs that and that Thanatos' existence is crucial. Although things weren't all rainbows and roses, because it turned out that the current era Thanatos was Castorice's sister, Polixia, who became the demigod of death in the last cycle after sacrificing Castorice. Tormented by her grief, the first thing they did when they were reincarnated as Thanatos was to reconstruct Castorice's soul and bring her back to life. Part of her authority became Pavax and brought Castorice to the living world, but because of this, the souls of the dead were not able to enter the afterlife. But things got solved in the end, so now everything's good. The idea is that is what gave the people of Amphoreus meaning to their lives. Lastly, we have Trickery. Zagreus and Cypher are truly the hidden MVPs of Amphoreus. While Strife and Death were concepts that always instilled fear and terror in people's hearts, Trickery was seen more like a minor inconvenience. Don't get me wrong, people hated it, but Trickery was never taken seriously, and that's exactly why the stunt it managed to pull hits harder. First, let's discuss what it does. As a concept, the authority of Trickery is very simple. It can turn lies into truths as long as people believe in said lies. It's a simple power that can do incredible things when used properly. Cypher always saw herself unworthy of being a Chrysos Heir. Those with golden blood are heroes of legends, warriors with great power who fight gods for the survival of humanity. Meanwhile, she was just a powerless thief, a coward who was only good at running away. She was no hero, she was just a liar. So, what could she do for the flame chase journey? She always saw herself as unworthy, someone who is incapable to make any contributions. Yet, in the end, she was the one who made the biggest contribution to this journey. About a millennia ago, Cypher learned the truth about the Dawn Device from the dying High Priest of Okema. The Dawn Device, which protects the city from the darkness that descended upon Amphoreus, would only function for 300 years. After the death of the High Priest, Cypher disguised herself as his apprentice and held a speech where she told the people of Amphoreus that the Dawn Device will protect Okema forever, making the citizens believe that the light that protects them is eternal. And even after the 300 years were over, the authority of Strife kept the light going for another 700 years until Cypher met her demise at the hand of the Flame River. That is also why she decided to leave Okema and cut ties with Aglaya, because she knew that it was hard to keep this secret from her, and if she were to find out her lie, the entire city might be doomed. At the same time, after inheriting the core flame of Trickery, Cypher tricked everybody to think that Zagreus was dead, while in reality they assumed the form of Bartolos and pulled the biggest trick in the history of Amphoreus with Cypher. In the end, it wasn't Catholic's benevolence that protected the people of Okema, it was the lies of Trickery that gave people a home for 1000 years and allowed the Chrysos Heirs to finish their journey. And this is how Strife, Death and Trickery managed to hold Amphoreus together. Strife kept the dark tide at bay, Death gave meaning to life, and Trickery protected the people of Amphoreus for 700 years. The Titans that everybody feared and resented for bringing the end of era Chrysia were the ones who actually saved the world in the end and brought the biggest contributions to the Flame Chase journey.